Welcome back to another video on Gearsaw Studios, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build yourself a nice jungle stilt home. In case you're ever traversing the jungle, walking around in an area you haven't deforested, and realizing, kinda sucks to build here. I mean, you either have dense foliage here, not technically in the jungle anymore because the grass isn't as green anymore over there, or you have a ton of bamboo in the way. Well, how do you solve this? Stilt home. Add some fences and make small little compartments everywhere. You can place it above the bamboo, connect it to some trees, build over the water. It's the most versatile home, and not to mention, you're safe from mobs. Although if you build it in the river, you might be attacked by trident round, but I'm gonna ignore that. Anyways, please like and subscribe, and onto the tutorial. First off, we're going to be using a bunch of blocks you can find in the jungle. Use, of course, bamboo and jungle planks, along with its log versions. Then, grab yourself some spruce, or if you're having trouble getting spruce, dark oak can work too, but I'd say spruce looks better because it's a little less refined. Then, we have bamboo itself being used for the floor of the huts, along with their fence variant being used as the stilts. Then, we're going to be using some polished granite for the accents on the foundational part because you can't really put storage in stilts. And then, inside that foundational part, we're going to be using some blackstone and basalt because it looks kind of volcanic, and I've always associated jungles with volcanoes, and perhaps you could add some blackstone to the top of some nearby stony peaks. Then, find yourself anywhere in the jungle that does not have sharp terrain elevation changes. Like over there, that would not be a good spot. I've flattened this area out for the sake of demonstration purposes, but I recommend trying to leave the area mostly forested because it's pretty easy to do so. But start out by placing down some polished granite and leave 3 block segments in between and make 5 segments. This will be the base of our stilt home. With all this granite in place, replace the bottom blocks here with more polished granite, and then connect them all up with more granite. Preferably, you should have these corners empty, akin to that of them not quite connecting up, but if they're connected, it won't cause many issues for the build, in case you don't want to fix it. Then, on the sides that you want it, build staircases up. I recommend mud brick, and although I didn't include it in the palette, it's pretty easy to get this small quantity. Although it's optional if you even want to do that, you could replace it with another block like bamboo mosaic. Either way, you want to connect this all up, and any parts that are not stairs, fill in with glass panes like this, and then excavate 3 blocks down. We'll do more, but this is a good place to start. Once you have your pit dug out, then what you want to do is go to the top and place down bamboo 2 blocks along here. Since the chests are of course 2 blocks long, and they're going to go decently tall, we need to have a proper ceiling here, and since it's only 1 thick, we need to choose a block that works both on the top and bottom, and bamboo fits that build perfectly. Which means fill it in like this, and have diagonals going like this since they are directional blocks and don't quite fit together. Once you have all of that done, then you can start going to the bottom and replace the ground with basalt. Towards the middle, replace the ground with blackstone instead. Now we have the nice volcanic floor and everything else I said to do. Now, what we want to do is go on the corners, elevate it up and make these little gaps here, and place emerald blocks. If that's too expensive, that's okay, but if you have access to villagers, this should not be terribly expensive. But of course, it's still emeralds after all, which means discretion is advised if you are running low on them. Then, make this top layer here out of packed mud, and make these little pillars taller, and line the tops with stairs, so that way they can go backwards like this, or you could make them an extra block, so that way you can place lanterns on them and prevent mobs from spawning on top of your build. If you do all that, then you want to go to the layer below and make the ceiling jungle planks or anything else you'd like. Bamboo might be a better choice, so keep that in mind. Now we have this nice base plate here, packed mud, and I added this hole here, moss on the sides, in order to get in. The back of this should be bamboo trapdoors. It looks a lot better than jungle. And then on our way up, we have the lanterns, 4 blocks on each side. These are going to be where our stilts go. And on the corners, we have our little things. I removed a block, although that might have been off camera. But anyways, what we want to do is go above our emerald blocks, place down some mud brick walls, around 6 or so. But that might be too tall in itself. 4 blocks tall, or actually just 3. Yeah, I'm indecisive. Then we place a lamp, 4 trapdoors, all surrounding it, and then the daylight sensor inverted. That way, when it's night, these turn on. Make sure that you build 4 of these, and at night, they should activate. Setting it to night, we can now see that they're active, and it keeps the area nicely lit. Although most of that is the lantern's job, the stilt home's exterior will be lit by these. Once you have your lamp post in, then you should start working on the actual stilt home. And yes, I know this is quite a large jump cut, but on top of the granite you've placed, put bamboo fences, stack them up high. They should be going above the bamboo line, or if you're in a normal jungle, it should be around halfway up the jungle trees. This is a pretty good height, although you could make smaller ones that are like satellite nests, because these are basically a little bird nest to an extent. And you want to build several of them, but this one is the main one. In order to build it, you want to have this kind of ellipsoid going across. Pause here if you want to see the exact schematics for this. And you should replicate it on all 4 sides. Then, once you do that, go to the bottom and make sure that these connect up to spruce and that you have ample room for a hole in the middle. This hole should be spruce. And then you attach it to a trapdoor like down here. Then, once you're all done with everything, you should have a trapdoor that you have to open to get in, and a trapdoor ladder, along with the framing for your little thing up here. With your spruce things now in place, you want to go to the roof, connect it all together with jungle planks, go to the sides, make it jungle planks. The first layer of the walls should be jungle stripped logs along with the blocks below it, and then add some banners and planter boxes to decorate it nicely. Windows are also heavily encouraged. But remember that we are going to build bridges to smaller huts because we can't fit everything into here, and I'd prefer to not use this area that much. Which means you decorate with banners, add planter boxes on 1 or 2 sides, and then that part's finished. Then, returning to the foundation, make the first block going up from these stairs jungle stripped logs, like this. Then coat them in granite, and you'll have a nice thing going around. Once you have the house all nicely decorated with things you'll need, of course only basic amenities, a lot of this stuff is going to be in the basement down below, then I'd recommend putting trapdoors on any side you have doors, and creating bridges to copies of this hut. The thing is, I'd recommend making smaller ones, but what are you going to put in them? Simply, you could easily make smaller versions of these without walls and they'd look pretty, but there really isn't any practical usage for them. If you want to have a nice village going on here, then go right ahead and build smaller versions of these without walls, but otherwise, I'd recommend building 2 more copies of these, or less or more depending on what you need, and then putting whatever you need inside them. One I recommend being enchanting, the other one, it's whatever you want. With our 2 identical pods being placed in, we can see this build is becoming more complete, and a nice thing about this build, you can always expand upon it. Because notice, these bridges here, just build another one off this one in case a new feature gets added. Or say you want another wart farm up here, go right ahead, add it. But our simple things we have here, Enchanting setup, small peephole here, chest that should be filled with lapis, grindstone, and notice that on these edges, 1, the walls are now filled in with more stairs, and 2, these blocks here where the walls are 3 feet thick, we can see that they have jungle stripped logs. Include these wherever you go, kind of like what we have going down there. Our precarious OSHA violating bridge is there, and then on the other side, we have basically the same thing, but a brewing setup, with one side's jungle stripped logs being replaced with barrels. Overall, a very nice setup, and it's out of reach from any pesky mobs, especially since these supports are spider proof. Speaking of which, you should build mini versions of your foundation like this, and place down your stilts from here. They're very simple and should not cost many resources, as opposed to the main part, which we're getting close to completing. Once your supports mini foundations are done, they should look something like this if they are on uneven terrain. It's all very simple, and although it might take up quite a bit of your wheat supply, I recommend using mud bricks. Our final part of the build is returning to the basement, and you might want to do this one first because this is your storage, but the idea of this basement is that you have a large amount of storage. And the ground here, along with the back walls, should be whatever's being stored, whether it be red concrete or really any red block, red concrete in the background. Or if you're storing oak logs, put some oak logs and planks. Things like that are what makes your storage system more efficient without the use of laggy item frames, which are not a good choice for a permanent storage system that is exceptionally large. Anyways, you want to have this whole section here, and stairs going across the top. Since I'm not actually going to be storing anything in here, I'm going to just use placeholder bamboo walls as a backdrop. Stairs up here. Any stair that fits the palette should work. I recommend jungle for this. Upside down, covering up the podzol. And then we fill it all up with a bunch of chests. Repeat this for all 4 sides. With all 4 sides done, we can see we have a pretty nice sorting area. Of course, replace the bamboo planks behind the chest with the block you're going to sort for convenience. And then you're left with these 4 corners. I'd make 2 of them entrances and exits to a mine using water elevators, but for beauty purposes, I'm going to make them small libraries, which means chiseled bookshelves. If you don't want to do this, then that's fine. Include whatever else you need, such as smithing tables or anvils, although a lot of that would likely be next to enchanting and such. But include whatever else you need, and if you need more room, well, this is a foundation. Build a basement to it, or potentially make the ladder go further and build another room like this. Once your corners are filled up with whatever you need, I just put in bookshelves since this is a creative mode world. This build is complete, or as complete as it can be, because as new things get added or new needs arise, you need to build more and more of the base, and that's a neat thing. Say you need anvils, smithing tables, and all that. Well, go to one of your things, add another trapdoor bridge, build another pod, all done. Need villagers? Build a pod, and each pod could be dedicated to a different kind of villager, which is going to be especially useful in 1.20.2, where unbreaking librarians can only be found in jungles. Either way, if you're looking for a nice jungle house that doesn't require much land clearing, this is the way to go. And with that, it's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Either way, enjoy the rest of your day. Gearsaw